Right, there we go. Now it's recording. How's it, guys? Welcome back. Here we are. Chapter 28. Your cup of tea ready? This is the penultimate chapter. Final chapter tomorrow. Where is my spoon? Sorry. Oh, there it is. Good view of my belly there. Alright. And I'll be with you forever. Cheers. Right. Chapter 28. Trials and Tribulations. I would outstare the sternest eyes that look, outbrave the heart most daring on earth. Pluck the young sucking cubs from the she-bear, yea, mock the lion when he roars for prey, to win thee, O lady. Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare. I learned very early in life that any dealings that had to do with women were on the dangerous level. Attempting to chop off the big toe of my sister Patty was a prime example. And then there was the incident of the daughter of a German missionary who lived in our area. We could always hear the maize car coming for miles as their pickup didn't have a muffler. By the time they arrived, I was usually well out of sight and would not appear until they had left. But every once in a while they would stay the night. Rosie May, like Patty and me, had no other white friends, and so wanted to make the most of her stay with us. I was quite happy to play with my Muha friends, and so tended to ignore Rosie. She was not to be spurned, however, and would follow me around. On one particular day, I climbed up high in my favorite avocado tree, and she stood at the base throwing stones at me. Not being able to find anything to throw back, I did what any boy of 10 would have done under the circumstances. I peed on her. With a shriek, she took off, and she didn't stop screaming until she was safely in the arms of her father. A few minutes later, I heard their pickup leaving, and then Serege, the gardener, came to find me. You're in trouble now, he chuckled. And what does the madam know? I asked in a very humble voice. What kind of man are you to resort to urinating on a woman? He mocked. Serege and I had a long history together, and today it looked as though Serege was going to come out the winner. Does the madam know? Who doesn't know? I'm sure everyone knows all the way to the marketplace the way that one was bully. I climbed down the tree and we sat a few moments together. You know the madam wants to see you, he stated. I nodded. Slowly I rose and went off at a slow shuffle towards the house. Mom wasn't angry as I expected, but she was quite firm in telling me that I had to stay in my bedroom the rest of the day. That was quite terrible, as I had planned to go hunting in a new area that very afternoon. Mom probably had gotten wind of it, and that was why she gave me that punishment. The very worst kind. Things didn't improve much when I went to Helderberg in the Cape. In the 4 years I went there, I plucked up the courage to go on a date the very last year. I was 18 and had my eye on a foxy, dark-haired girl by the name of Gail Visser. All she had ever done to deserve this date was to greet me once by name. All the girls in school had heard about the snakes in my room, and so weren't that keen to get to know me. There had been some unmentionable pranks that had happened in the dining room, and even though there was no proof, all the girls blamed me. I was not worried though, because I had so much work to do. I hardly had enough time to carry out any mischief. Never mind spend time talking with the girls. So it was quite an event when I took the foxy Gail Fisher to a school movie. I don't know what happened, because it all started out so well, and then kind of sort of died within the first 5 minutes. It went something like this. Hello, Bill. What mischief did you get up to this afternoon? I felt so proud that a pretty woman was interested in something that I might be doing. Without a thought, I told her how I had been walking along the base of First Peak Mountain and had found a porcupine. I chased it until it went down a hole that wasn't very deep, so I quickly made a spear from a straight stick, and in one quick stab to its neck, killed it. I then hauled my prickly prize out carefully, lay it on its back, and skinned it out from the belly first. I made a fire in a rocky depression, and after it was a bed of coals, had roasted the porcupine and eaten it. All she said was, "Ugh!" And that was it for the rest of the evening. Not even a good night, thanks for the date. I can't imagine what could have gone wrong. Are you telling me girls don't find porcupine eating sexy? Shocker. I'm now in the library of a college in the United States. An apparition walks in and sits down next to me. I am completely enthralled and in awe. I have to meet this woman somehow. I decide to borrow something. Excuse me, miss, would you mind lending me your rubber? She looks at me with huge eyes. A look of horror is on her face. Her books are scooped up in a moment and she flees the library. I'm a bit concerned, but I have had that effect on others, so I'm not too worried. Yeah, I sometimes have that effect on people too. That evening, I see the same girl again and ask the chap next to me if she is a full box of chocolates. Very much so, Bill. Why do you ask? Well, I was sitting next to her in the library and asked to borrow her rubber by way of introduction, and she just takes off. You asked for what? He almost shouts. I asked for a rubber, I say calmly. At this point, he starts laughing so loudly as to attract attention. What's wrong with that? I whisper. You don't know what a rubber is, do you? Now I can see that. A rubber is a condom, you fool. We call an eraser a rubber also. Oh, Americans, man, honestly. Imagine how shocked and relieved I was when I had the same experience. Imagine how shocked and relieved I was to find out that they refer to their bum as a fanny. Picture what went through my mind when I first heard the word fanny pack. You see, in our slang, and I'm sure British and Australian slang, a fanny is a woman's private parts. So, a fanny pack, that just sounds so wrong to us. Anyway, a friend of mine then introduced me to Gwen, a tall, willowy lady who was very gracious and softly spoken. She was the daughter of missionaries from India, and so people like me didn't seem to shock her at all. It wasn't long, and we were married. Today, when I tell people that I was a virgin when I got married, they are all shocked. I wanted to get married, have kids, get old with one woman, and at the end of the day, sit on the front stoep. That's like a porch in Afrikaans, the front stoep, in our rocking chairs, drinking tea and gossiping about our neighbors. She was great company during the school years. She didn't like my friends, but that didn't matter much as I was pretty busy studying and working. When school was over, however, and we came back to Rhodesia, things started to happen. We had our 2 boys, and I'm the first to say what a wonderful mother she was. For my boys, I couldn't have picked a better one. Then there was the war. I would go off to the bush for up to 6 weeks at a time, and then wonder why there was this wall between us when I got back. Now, as I look back, I would have been the same had I been in her shoes. Imagine seeing your man going off to the bush and never knowing whether he was coming back alive or in a body bag. Hindsight is always 20/20, they say. I couldn't even think of being without my boys, so we hung on as long as we could before breaking up. Then, throwing caution to the wind, I was married soon afterward to Teresa. This was during my anti-poaching days, and every day was an adventure. We spent a year in Zaire, travelled to Mauritius, the States, Portugal, spent 6 months backpacking in Asia, and finally settled again in Bulawayo, where I started to practice dentistry again. Teresa taught me how to mix with the white tribe, how to speak and mix with people, how to show appreciation, and most important of all, what a woman wants. Unfortunately, the baggage we were both hauling around beforehand was too much for one couple. I went on a date with Maria, and the first thing she asks is, "How long have you been divorced?" 2 years, I state. "I bet you've been on lots of dates in that amount of time," she says. "No, as a matter of fact, you're the first one." She looks at me and laughs. "I bet you'd tell that to all of them." Later I thought, it's no wonder us men have to lie so much. Keeps us from looking like absolute paupers. We only had the one date. Later, Helen and Ian Nish come to visit me at Marley Ranch with a friend. Now Meryl is a school teacher with a difference. She teaches kids with learning disabilities. I can tell by the way she's looking at me that she doesn't like me. I make a bad first impression for some reason, but I like the serenity about her. I can see why she is able to deal with hyperactive kids. She and Ian have been best friends ever since they shared a mess together in college days, and they do a lot together. One day I ask Helen if she thinks Meryl would ever go out with me. With the thumbs up, I borrow her phone and call Meryl right away, and we go to the movies that night. I am the perfect gentleman, and in due course am invited to a home-cooked meal. This very proper dating goes on for 4 years, and then I decide to put Meryl through a few tests. Another hunter friend of mine took his prospective wife-to-be out to the bush and invited her to go with him to see some lions that they had heard moments before. She declined, and when he came back with the scouts, he motioned with his finger to the lips to keep quiet. He then crept up to the tent, which was tightly zipped shut, and started to sniff around the tent, grunting every once in a while. The poor lady started to cry and pray aloud for protection. The scouts could not contain themselves and started to laugh. The zips flew open, and an angry lady emerged and slapped the grinning hunter across his face. She was very wet from the waist down. And that was the end of the test. So Meryl and I spent a week down at my camp at Cabora Bassa, where I was kapenta fishing in 55 degrees heat. That's hot. 55 degrees Celsius. There were no complaints. So I was thinking for all the Yanks out there, 55 Celsius is between 130 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That is roastingly hot. We went on dozens of hikes around the farm. Fishing with her was an embarrassment, as she always did better than me. Then, on the day before our marriage, we walked 20 kilometers when our pickup got stuck, barefoot, through the mud and rain, and there were no complaints from her, only from me. The drought was finally over. Alright, that's it for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed. Good night, sleep well, see you tomorrow. Cheers.